Here we go. What's going on?
All right. Well, it's Wednesday today, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Halfway through the week.
I was planning on taking a shower and trying to get cleaned up here before the podcast, but that didn't happen. So
Oh, well, I mean, you got your hair back.
yeah,
You're looking good. So you didn't have to say anything. You wouldn't have told.
Need to clean up the beard a little bit here. Yeah. Other than that,
Nice.
we're rolling.
We are
rolling here. Yeah. So what about you?
things are just moving along. Honestly, it's going to be a sprint the next 5 to 6 weeks as things just continue to roll along. And Suzanne's wrapping up the school year, so she's back
I have no concept of time or school year with homeschooling. Like it just doesn't have that same feeling of like, oh, yeah, it is kind of time to wrap up the school year, isn't it?
Yeah. So she's back in the building 4 days a week.
Okay.
So, we gotten ourselves, while she was teaching from home, we'd gotten ourselves into a nice little routine of not necessarily having to, we had to rush out the door, but not rush out the door.
Yeah.
Now she's, heading out of the house at 7:30 in the morning. So it's like a sprint to get up, get stuff together.
Yeah.
Her get out, me get the kiddo off the babysitting, and then get back here so I can start work.
It's been an interesting conversation that I've seen happening online where lots of people are talking about one of the unintended positives of the pandemic is that we've kind of slowed things down massively. And that there's a real fear that we're just going to say, okay, let's just go back to that crazy pace that we were at before. And I kind of hope that we find some kind of in-between balance.
Yeah.
So we shall see. I know we've talked about it a lot, and you and I specifically have been talking more about just time that we're committing to things and just being more focused. And the crazy thing that I have found, and I'm not sure what your experience has been, but since I've really been focused on where my time has been spent and trying to do more focused blocks of work and prioritizing stepping away from work, and I don't mean just not doing work, but like physically removing yourself from the environment, going out for a hike or doing something completely different. What I found is that I am able to produce so much more work in a smaller amount of time, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've been really keeping track of where I spend my time the last week and a half. And one of the things I found is so using a little, tool called Timular. We'll give them a plug, definitely try them out. And
it's a cool tool.
Yeah, and it's this neat little, gadget. I'll just use that term, for the desk, but like this, it's not a cube. It's
you went with the same icons I did. Not the same ones, but the same style.
Similar. Right. I've got some of these ones down here. And
okay. So you did a mix.
Yeah.
Okay. I went all the same icon style. So
yeah. So I've been working the last 2 weeks. I've been working half here at the home office, half at my parents' house, helping them through some stuff right now. But when I'm here at the desk, like having this thing it gives me that visual representation. So I flip it over when I start something, and what I've noticed is I have developed this frantic pace to my work, just just over the years, this very frantic pace where I'm literally working on two things at one time. I kind of get one thing and then I'll jump over to something else and I'll jump back. It has forced me to say, no, focus on this. So you're not spreading yourself out all over the place.
I found the same. And it's been really good for me because the fact that I know that the timer is going for that one specific task, not only does it force me not to go off and look at other things, which I'm very tempted to do. We all have a little bit where we're kind of scattered in that aspect, but it really helps to focus that that's what I'm going to do. That it's like, well, I can't have two timers running. I can't be doing the podcast and working on something for, Harvard Business Review. I have
Yeah.
to just be focused. And it's really helped me to have that focused time. I don't know if you've set yours up. I think it is set up by default where it gives you a little nag reminders on time. If you've worked more than 30 minutes, says, hey, do you want to take a break? Which is awesome because that also plays well with kind of the sprint cycles if you're doing the uh, Pomodoro type of thing. So you're kind
Hmm.
of breaking it down into smaller chunks.
I don't know because I just have I have do not disturb turned on during the day.
Oh, okay.
So this way, like
So you're not
text
getting
messages
notifications.
come in,
Got it.
emails come in, stuff like that. I don't get distracted by those things.
Got it. Makes sense. That's probably smart.
Yeah. But no, it's one of those things like, yeah, I have. That's a bad habit that I didn't realize I had is I've even noticed within a 15-minute period, because it's got the little clock running up in the toolbar, is
Yeah.
I would have changed topics like 3 to 4 times in a 15-minute period.
Yeah. We do, right?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
this bouncing around. Now, I have created like this catch-all because one of the things I'm really trying to get back into the habit of doing is checking emails, answering emails during the morning, and then closing it out and not looking at it until probably the end of the day.
Yeah, so I'll be interested in yours. So I do have an email task. But it's also kind of more of a oops, I just killed my timer. It's also more of a I don't want to say a catch-all, but there's a lot of things that email task does. And I almost exclusively limit that to the early hours of the morning. And I'm typically spending between 30 minutes and an hour on that task every morning. And what that is for me is it's both processing my email. So I'm typically at inbox zero. So it's processing all of my email, and I do one of two things. If and sorry, this probably isn't even the topic of today's
No,
conversation,
but it's giving me a good segue.
it's a fun one, and maybe we should have it as a future conversation. But if I can action it, meaning if it's going to take less than 5 minutes of my time, I just get it done. And so even if I'm doing client work or sales work, I don't start a new timer from that. It's just I'm just doing some odds and ends and cleaning up. If it's less than 5 minutes, I'll do it. If it's more than 5 minutes, I have a separate app that I move all of that stuff over to. That I need to come up for a new name for it. So it's my workflowy app that I've got set up in such a way that it's a master inbox. I call it my garbage collector. So everything that comes up, whether it's a chat, whether it's something in this that reminds me to do something, whether someone pings me on Slack, um, rather than like just saying, "Oh, I need to react to that right now," it goes to my garbage collector, and I bucket it into different things like general, sales, marketing, and branding. Then I have separate buckets for each client, and everything goes into there. So then after I process my email, I should be at inbox zero. I'll then go to my garbage collector and say, okay, what 5 to 8 things can I realistically accomplish today? And I'll move them off of there into my today list and say, these are the 5 things that I'm going to get done today. And it has been such an incredibly productive way to view things. And some people say like, oh, you only get 5 things done a day. The reality is that's probably 2x of what I was getting done before. Because what I was doing is like you, I was working on a little something here and here and here. And like within a 15 minutes time span, I touched maybe 4 things, but they didn't really move forward very far. And they just got drug out and drug out and drug out. Here, I'm committing. It's like these 6 things I will absolutely get done today. And every day I'm knocking 5 or 6 things off that list. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how things look in another week or so with it. Really, again, like focusing on just, yeah, like once you pick up a task, move it forward significantly, if not done.
Yeah.
And because that's the thing with email, like one of the things I've noticed is since I've gotten out of the habit of checking email in the morning, closing it out, doing my work, and then checking it later in the day, and in those the beginning and end of day segments, just getting stuff cleared out, getting replies out, is I'll see an email and I'll think about it all day instead of just sitting down, taking the 2, 3, 5, even 6, 7 minutes to reply to it, get it done, and get it out of the way. I just think about the reply all day.
That is 100% correct. And I need to, and I'm going to probably put this in my garbage collector. I need to go research the study or the article that talked about this phenomenon in the concept of bills. Now, this was a while ago when we actually had paper bills in the mail, and we got out the checkbook, and you probably remember your parents sitting at the table doing bills on the weekend, right? And the whole point of the article was that most people, and I'm going to completely screw up the numbers, but I'm just going to throw it out there for conversation's sake. Most people would touch a bill. So you get the bill out of the mail. And for you kids, this is like a piece of paper that someone would send you and say you owe us $100. You would get that in the mail. You would open it up, or you would just leave it in the envelope, and you would set it somewhere. Everyone has like a counter by their junk drawer or whatever you call it back east, where stuff just collects. And
everybody has those.
Everybody has it. And again, this number is probably not what was in the article, but they basically said something like, on average, people would pick up and look at that bill 5 or 6 times before they actually actioned it, meaning before they actually paid the bill. And not only was it the picking up the bill, but every time they picked it up, to your point, it forces a context switch, and then you spend time thinking about it, and then you have to context switch out of it. And and I can't remember how many minutes or hours they say were wasted on just picking it up and putting it back down versus just getting it done. Not only in the time of not doing it, but the time that you're wasting in that context switching. And so I found the same thing for myself with kind of the inbox and other things. That's why I've went to inbox 0 is if I can action it right now, boom, it's done, pay the bill. If I can't, I'm going to put it in another bucket and do it later, but I'm not going to think about it. It's gone. It's out of the inbox.
Yeah. So. And it's along the same lines of an article I've referenced a couple times in episodes. It's a Forbes article from a few years ago. And it was talking about like, why do certain executives wear the same thing every day? They've got 10 of the same shirt, 5 of the same pair of pants. They've got the same thing that they wear every day, or only, some people may even just go like 2 or 3 variations of it. They don't have this wide-ranging wardrobe for work every day. They wear the same thing. And it was because it was talking about, and this is where, it ties in with context switching, is that you have a cognitive capacity every day. You have a limit to the decisions that you can make every day.
That's right.
And what a lot of those people found is to put their focus towards what the most important stuff. They got the routine stuff out, or they made other decisions routine. They got they made the less important decisions routine. So it's not, what am I wearing today? What is this? What is that? It's limit the number of decisions you have to make.
No,
and that's the thing with context switching, constantly, trying to get back into that habit of answering all email first thing in the morning and then closing it out. It's not that one email that I keep thinking about and taking me away from what else I have to do.
Yeah. That's such a powerful concept. And I think once you're able to recognize that, it massively increases what you can do. Again, we started off talking about the fact that in less time, I'm doing more work. And it seems the opposite, especially in consulting, where we hear people talk about, well, consultants are a special breed. They're robots. They can work 70, 80 hours a week. I'm like, we can't. Absolutely not. We're not special. We can't do those hours. And I found that myself, like the more that I start pushing over 40 or anywhere close to 40, and let's be honest, like very focused work, my ability to create diminishes drastically. Mentally, I can't do it. I just can't go that hard. And so we convince ourselves that we can, and maybe we are creating a lot of output, but the quality of it is so degraded that we end up doing more and more work because we have to fix and retool. It's better to have that less focused time and do it really, really well.
Yeah. And every time you have to go back and fix something, you're essentially giving away free work.
Yeah.
You're spending effort on something that you've already been paid for and you're not going to get paid for again. Or it's just, it's free effort.
Yep. So I'm interested to see how you're going to transition this.
Yeah.
We took the intro pretty far out this time. This was a very fun topic.
But it's really good because it's talking about keeping your time focused on what is most valuable, and not always is, the most valuable isn't always work that you're going to get paid for, but it's the stuff that's going to drive the most value for you personally, for your company, and for your customer.
Yeah.
Where is something where everybody benefits from? So what I thought of is, the question I want to talk about this week is, when should you give away free work, if ever? Because if you think about it, we're always kind of told, like, you need to give, and it's weird, like, because this could go in multiple different directions. This is not the, expecting to receive before you give philosophical argument. It is not that. But if you think about it this way, when we're in college, we're told that we need to take an unpaid or 2 unpaid internships to gain experience and set us up for a good career. We talked last week, our intro last week, we were talking about my internship, and it wasn't unpaid, but it was as close to unpaid as you could get. I think I got like $125 every 2 weeks for that. After we started our career, we're told, at times that we need to take one for the team and that we'll get rewarded later. Put in the extra effort now and you're going to get rewarded later. And, I bet you've gotten it too, is like, if you're owning a business, you got to give away free stuff to get exposure. Like that's a common one. So should you give away work? Should you work for free? And again, this is not the philosophical argument of you need to give before you can receive. It is not that. It is, I think our friend Randy has mentioned multiple times, like, all the effort he put in the open source software community. A lot of effort. We're talking hours upon hours upon hours of effort he put in there. So does it really benefit to give away free work?
Man, I don't even know where to start. Because it's such a nuanced discussion, speaking of kind of Randy and creating for open source, and doing things for the community. I mean, we do that all the time. If you think about it, whether we're producing work or we're just providing value through conversations, we do that, right? If we're on social media and we're helping someone out, or someone says, "Hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time?" That's working for free if we're just giving it away. And I think there definitely should be some kind of a balance between doing that and then your work. So let's kind of take that off the table. And our friend Evan Lapointe has a nice way of doing that. He said he often talks to people and says, "Look, you really need to define what you're willing to do for free and what you absolutely get paid for." And most of us don't have that conversation. And I think that's a really healthy place to start.
That is a good point.
I'll write blog posts for free. We give a podcast away for free. There are things that we do for free, and then there are things that we are absolutely paid to do. And I think that it's important to be clear on that, especially when you're in professional services. Think about someone in your family that may be a tax preparer or a lawyer, how easy it is to say, "Hey, we're cousins. Can you give me 30 minutes of your time to give me some advice on this contract?" It's really unfair, because that's what they get paid to do. And just because they're family, maybe we get a discount, but we should be paying them for what they get paid to do. And when we're clear and set that intentionality, I think it puts us in a good place. On the broader discussion of kind of a foot in the door and getting experience, I'm a no way type of person. No way should you do that for free. And I get really, really emotional and irritated about the free internship. And maybe because I've been burned by it, and I'll share that story. But if you're doing work, you should get paid. And the argument is, well, you're not qualified. And blah, blah. Dude, none of us are qualified. Even for doing this, I'm not qualified. I posted on LinkedIn about this yesterday. I'm like, so much of what I'm doing, I'm just trying to figure out as I go. So stop with,
Yeah. And I want to make a quick side point to that, because it's funny. Maybe it was about a year or two ago that I came to that realization that nobody knows what they're doing. For the longest time, I thought, wow, when I get to that point, like this person or that person who just knows what they're doing, they have it all together. No. Yeah, I kind of came to that realization too. I'm like, nobody knows what they're doing, and they're figuring it out as they go along.
And we get more experienced, and we do have more tools to call upon. And a lot of that comes from not knowing what we're doing and failing at things and saying, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So for sure, there's more experience to it. But it's a fallacy to believe that everyone has everything figured out, and I think it's what ultimately holds us back. I know, just speaking personally, it's held me back and continues to in some areas. I've become more and more comfortable with running a certain type of business, but even kind of expanding what we do at 33.6 is hard for me because I think, well, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, so I can't do it. I'm like, no one knows how to do that unless they've kind of specifically gone down that path. And I faced that in lots of areas of life where it's like, man, I really want to do that, but I talk myself out of it because I don't know how to do it. We don't. That's how we face everything. We never know how to do it. We have the fundamentals and we have experience. And just think about your baby, your boy. Like, did he know how to walk? Did he know how to crawl? No. Like, he had the fundamental tools to figure it out. But like, you have to fall down. You have to like look awkward for a while because we don't know. We don't know how to do it. We're not born just knowing how to do it. And so we have to go through actually doing it in order to know how to do it. And that's really awkward and uncomfortable, but the outcomes are very rewarding. And so I reject that argument wholeheartedly that, we shouldn't pay people that are doing an internship because they don't know what they're doing. I mean, we could have that same argument. It's like, well, we can't pay him as a CEO, $50 million, or, because he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, that should be the argument, right? Like, these guys that get into these high level CEO, they have no idea. I mean, they have a lot of tools, they have a lot of experience, but are they ultimately qualified for what exactly? No, they're going to figure a lot of it out as they go. So we shouldn't pay them. No, that's nonsense. We should pay them, right? And
yeah,
it's the same for internships. You want to be on the podcast? Dog wants to be on the podcast. She's too noisy guarding the house, though. My neighbor, so quick aside, my neighbor really wants to be friends with this little dog, and I don't know why. So she comes over anytime I have the dog out front. My neighbor comes over and just tries to like be friends with her. I'm like, this dog, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because she's female or because she's small, but she is on high alert protector. Like, she don't want anybody coming around this house. So it's funny. So yeah, I mean, I am not a fan of doing free work as an internship to get your foot in the door. And I've talked about this on social, and I get the predictable pushback. Well, but someone is going to take it. Someone else that is willing to do it for free is going to get in, and they're going to get it done. And you're the one that's not going to get the opportunity because you weren't willing to take it for free. I'm like, but if you're willing to do that, when do you stop being willing to do that? And that's a concern.
And I guess that's a good like secondary question to just the broader question when you should give it where you work for free, because once you start doing that, where's the line? When do you stop? Because then it's the next carrot is, well, the first carrot is with the internship. It's like, this gets you experience, which is going to help you have a nice job right as you graduate college. Then the next carrot is yeah, you got to put in some late nights right now. And the
I mean, if you want to get into upper management, you're gonna have to sacrifice and do this. And it's like, when does it end?
Yeah, because then the caveat is, and I'm going to use you as an example, is, the carrot you've probably gotten is, well, if you just come in and help us with this assessment, it'll set us up for great engagement.
Long term, we got some long term plans. We just need you to do this for us on the cheap or for free.
Yeah.
How many times has it like worked out? Less than half. Yeah, I mean, maybe one here and there, but it's nonsense. No, I'm not gonna work on future promises. There's massive value to what I can deliver for you, so pay me, right? And my story on this goes back to college, and it left some very deep emotional scars on me that I don't know if I'll ever get over. And I can still hear my graduate professor's voice the day I graduated. I was sitting in his office, 7th floor, Logan, Utah State University Business Building, overlooking the campus. I heard him tell me, Jason, if you continue to operate the way you operate, people are going to take advantage of you your entire career. And it was a cap to what ended up happening the previous year. So I was a graduate student in the information systems department at Utah State. I had 2 jobs. I was teaching an upper division course on software design, which I did get paid for by way of not having to pay tuition, which was awesome. That part worked out well. But I was also building an expert system um, that helped diagnose disease in plants, which at the time I thought was such a really cool concept. I mean, we're talking in the 90s that I was doing this. And the idea was we were going to build kiosks that would be in local nurseries that you could go up to with a touchscreen and say, this is what my plant looks like. And it would spit back, well, you're overwatering it. And here's how you would fix that. And I don't know how many hours. I was not keeping track of time at this point. Late nights, weekends, hours into building this thing. And the promise always was, we're going to submit a grant proposal. And within that grant proposal is going to be back pay for all of the time that you've put into building this platform. And 3 weeks before I graduated, the grant proposal got funded. We got the funding we were looking for, which was awesome. And I remember my professor calling me into the office saying, I appreciate everything that you've done, all of the free work to get us here. I know I promised you pay for that. I'm in a tough spot right now. You're graduating in 3 weeks, and I know you're leaving campus. And I've got a new graduate student coming in that I want to help kind of fulfill the vision of getting this into nurseries and building out the actual kiosks. And I'm going to use that money to pay him to do that work.
Ouch.
And I'm like, man, I learned the lesson. I'm glad I learned it early, the hard way of don't fall for that promise of you're getting your foot in the door. There's gonna be future work. We'll pay you. We'll make up for that time where we didn't pay you or we paid you on the cheap. Nope. I'm not going to do it, nor should anyone else. I mean, look, these companies makes incredible amounts of money. The fact that they're not willing to pay is just they're looking to be cheap, and they're looking to use that money somewhere else. So if they don't appreciate that work enough to pay for it, man, stay away. They've got the money to pay for it. You're creating value. I don't care how qualified, quote unquote, you are or not. You're creating value for that company, and you deserve to get paid for that. So that's my painful story on that topic, and unpaid internships with promise of future pay.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to ask, what was your response when you got that? Did you flip a chair?
No, I was completely in shock. I'm probably a little like emotional on the verge of like tears. Like, I don't even know what to say to this. I didn't, yeah, I think I kind of just got up and walked out of the office, and that was the last time I was there. I'm like, that's that. I was just, I was a much different personality back then. I think having run a business the last 8 years and been in positions to build out teams for multiple years before that, I think I've developed, I don't want to say a thick skin, but I've found my voice, I guess that's the right way to put it. In that, very early in my career, I was extremely shy, extremely timid. I'm already a very introverted personality. That introverted personality hasn't changed one bit, but standing up for myself has changed. Because definitely early in my career, I was not going to rock the boat. I was not going to have hard conversations. Now I'm completely fine with doing that. I feel completely comfortable doing that, but it took a long time to get there. So.
Well, that just effing blows. I mean, that was more painful than I thought it was going to be. When
and again, it's like it's something that I vividly remember to this day. I graduated in 1999, so that was a while ago, and I vividly remember that day, and I'm like, this is gonna stick with me a while. And ultimately, maybe it was for the best in that situation. That maybe the value I ended up getting out of that was it fundamentally started to shift and change the way that I was going to operate. With that said, I still would have preferred it had gone down the other way, but you live and learn. And again, this kind of goes back to our conversation of, we just don't know. None of us know everything, and it's okay to go through those situations where you kind of get burned a little bit to learn. With that said, listen to most people where they'll tell you it's okay to also get paid while you get burned and learn a bit,
Yeah.
right? I just it's just a very sensitive topic with me, and I can't think of too many scenarios where it makes sense, especially for these businesses again that are making just boatloads of money to not pay interns.
Mhm.
So, and we've never hired interns at 33 Sticks, although at my previous company we did, and I fought hard and we absolutely paid a really good wage to every intern. And I just felt good going to sleep at night knowing that we weren't taking advantage of these kids because they were smart, super smart kids. Um, in fact, one of them, Jawanza Joseph, if you're connected with him on LinkedIn, he's here in the Utah tech scene, just brilliant kind of data scientist. We got tons of value out of him, and he had like 2 months of real world experience, So,
Mhm.
pay your freaking interns, man. You know, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
So then I'm going to assume then now 22 years later, someone comes to you and says, hey, if you can help us do this, you know, um, significantly discounted, we don't know who you are. It'll really help you get the door. I'm assuming then your response is no.
Yeah, it's no, and I explain it.
Mhm.
And it's like, look, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but I know what we can do, what our team does. It's extremely valuable, and I try to be very empathetic about it. I say, look, I appreciate that you're coming with what you feel is valuable, that there's long term value to doing this, and that's great. Let's have that conversation, but the work that we do is far too valuable to give it away, or even to discount it. And we've defined a few of these things that we just draw a very firm line on, and we don't waver on it. And as I've talked to other agency owners and people looking to start up companies, it's something they really challenge me on and say, how can you do that? Because early on, like, maybe you just take whatever comes your way, or if it really is a potential big opportunity, back to the internship discussion. Well, if you don't do it for free, someone else will. Um, that's fine if that's the way you want to run your business. But what we found is that by drawing that line for the type of business that we wanted to create and the type of experiences we wanted to create, that absolutely had to be done. Because to the point you brought up, and I've thought about it a lot, is if we make this concession now, when do we stop making concessions? And if we know
Mhm.
that this concession goes against the fiber of the type of culture we're trying to create, we're just doing harm to ourselves. And we can try to say, well, it's got long-term value in mind, the same way that an intern may say, well, there may be future value for me there. It's a big gamble and risk that you're taking for a company that will have no qualms about not sticking up to their verbal commitment to you of, well, potential future opportunity.
Mhm.
Screw that. Get that locked in. If you
Yeah.
value what you do, get it locked in. You deserve that.
Mhm. It's kind of it reminds me of, um, some of the stuff, like as we were expecting, the kiddo's arrival. Of course, I started going through some of the stereotypical, what to expect when you're expecting, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And there was this one book I got it on an audiobook because I would listen to it when I'm doing chores around the house or outside cutting the lawn and whatnot. And it was, like how to really make sure you develop good sleeping habits with your child. Because they
Hmm.
said, like, good sleeping habits lead to these good habits, lead to these good habits, which lead to these healthy habits.
Hmm.
And at one point, like, they talk about, like, with certain things, like, like you have to be aware of the negotiating you're doing with the baby up front,
Yeah.
because it sets these subtle patterns that just continue and continue and continue as the child grows. And it's like, if you're giving in to an infant, you're going, when do you stop giving in? When they're a toddler? when they're
Mhm.
3, when they're 4, when they're 5,
Right.
right? Like they're like, your baby is so impressionable right off the bat. Subtle, like if you're trying to set healthy routines for the baby, because again, like healthy routines when they're infants lead to good eating habits when they're toddlers
Yeah.
and young children. And it's like, and it wasn't one of these like super rigid books, like like there's those parenting practices that are like super super rigid. This is when we eat and this is it, and like, not that, but just
Yeah.
setting some nice healthy routines. um and they're like, but the one thing that stuck out at me was like, if you're going to be constantly giving in to an infant, when do you draw the line? Because
Yeah.
that infant turns into a toddler who's going to expect that you're going to give them everything that they want. And that
Yeah.
toddler's going to turn into a 6-year-old that's going to expect that you're going to give them everything that they want.
Yeah. And it's such a perfect analogy for business and doing it for free, because it's
Mhm.
framing that expectation in the most impressionable time. And I think it absolutely plays out that way, that if you do it for free, if you do it for a discount, you've set that that's the expectation. And
Mhm.
now your whole trajectory in that relationship is going to be that much more challenging
You have to give
because,
more than the other side.
yeah, you have to give more, and if I'm doing this in business and I say, you know what, yeah, I'll do this assessment for free, um, or I'll do it at a discount. And then it comes due, and they're like, okay, well, let's talk about future work. Awesome. That was the promise, right? There's future work behind this. They say,
Mhm.
well, you kind of gave us this rate for this other project. I'm assuming we're somewhere similar. Wait a minute, guys. We did this at a discount at your request, but you now have that hole that you have to dig out of. So I love the analogy with setting the expectation with a child early on. It's the same with a business relationship, and even more than that, I think it helps just define the relationship. So again, I think you need to be, either as a business owner or as an employee, or as a customer, you need to be clear on what your expectations are for that relationship. And if you want a relationship that is on level ground, then you need to make decisions that are going to ensure that it's on level ground. If I'm going in as an intern and do you remember the Simpsons episode where Homer quit the nuclear plant?
Oh yeah, he burned every bridge.
And then he
Quite
had,
literally
and
walked in and
then,
out the door.
and then when he went back, do you remember what they made him do?
He had to grovel, and he had to basically crawl through this little door,
The
which
little
ended up
door. That's
yeah.
that's such a great visual, right? Because that's what we're doing to like these interns and people that are taking concessions, is we're saying, all right, grovel and crawl through this little door. You're less than the people that walk through the normal door. And
Yeah.
it sets that expectation that we're not equals. And that's not right. We need to be respected and seen, and valued for who we are. And to set that expectation up front that we're crawling through the little door because we're an intern rather than an employee, that it makes it a very difficult transition, to get that respect back. And look, I know people are going to listen to this and say, well, wait a minute, I was an intern and I didn't get paid, and now I'm VP of blah 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 blah. Fine, that's awesome, but in the big scheme of things, we have to be realistic of what that is doing, and it's very difficult to fight against. Sure, there are people that have been incredibly successful going down that path, but on the whole, if we look at the full data set, most people aren't,
Mhm.
and they learn the hard way. And again, that experience is good experience, but there's no reason to get good experience for free if you can get paid to do it.
Yeah. It makes me think, we touched on this a bit last week, but I think I told you kind of like one of the lessons I learned years ago. Um, a while back, I was working on the agency side for, of the one company I was working for. And I routinely worked with clients that were on, from the platform, but the agency, did work with them. And like, I was just being overloaded just constantly, and working late nights, working weekends. And, no matter how much I said, like, there's more work than I can do here, it was like, okay, we'll eventually get somebody. And, in my, my twisted thinking, I'm like, well, I'll show them. I'm
Yeah.
going to book all this time on my timesheet. And when they see I'm putting in 60 hours a week, they're going to realize that they're burning me out. No, you dumbass.
You fell
You
for the
just
trap.
showed them that I'm going to keep working and
Yeah.
they don't have to hire somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. You fell for the trap. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I totally
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. And it's, it's so incredibly unfortunate. I'm gonna see if I can pull up this guy's reply to me on LinkedIn here. Give me a second as I go through it. So someone on LinkedIn posted something like, what's the most important skill that you can learn? If you were to go back, so the question was, what is the top skill you recommend people develop to maximize their chances of success in their career? And his recommendation was communication skills. For me, I said my recommendation is empathy, and not the poster of the article. Some other guy jumped in and said, I don't know if I buy that. In the business world, you're going to have to work with people that are just ruthless and aggressive, and screw empathy. I'm like, I don't disagree that that's how work has happened. Doesn't make it right, and doesn't mean that we should continue that. And here's the line that he came back with that just like hit me upside the head. He said, I've been working for 46 years. I've seen how people progress through corporations and how they rise in the ranks. And here's what I'll tell you is, if you're going to be successful, you have to understand the game and play the game and remember that feelings don't count. And I'm like, man, what a shitty way to live your life. Like, that, and that's this corporate standard that we've come to expect, that this is a game, and leave your feelings at the door, and if you have to stab even your closest friend in the back to get that next raise, or that, you do that. Screw what other people feel. I'm like, this is such a toxic culture, and it's so rampant in most corporations, and it's nonsense. We are humans, and we feel, and it just sickens me that we think that, but that's how so many companies run. They don't give a crap that Jim's burnt out. You think they care that it makes you feel tired and you hate your life? They don't care. All they care about is, well, can we trick Jim into working more hours so we can increase our margins so we can get bigger bonuses? That's all they care
Mhm.
about. And that sucks. It really does.
Yeah. And I mean, to start putting a bow on it and even tie it back to last week, it's this, grind it out mentality of, and yeah, I think these two episodes actually tie together really, really well. And, how do you get free work out of people?
Yep.
You got to grind, give away as much as you can to get exposure, and then you'll be rewarded down the road. And yeah, I think you started this off perfect. It's everybody's got to frame and define what are they willing to give away for free, and what's the reason for that. Yeah, we don't put a paywall up for this podcast. Part of it is it's a creative outlet for us. This is something fun to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you and I are paying it forward because we've both talked about how we've gotten to where we are through the content others have produced. So we're not going to shut the door behind us. For those that are coming up behind us, we want to find a way to share.
Yeah.
So this is this, almost in a way, it's like us, our efforts here are to pay back others who've put content out ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is a good way to kind of wrap it up. But let me leave you with one more story, because I think it really helps to illustrate the point. I think a lot of us probably have had this happen to us, regardless of what we all have experience and expertise in something, and oftentimes our family and friends ask us for that expertise. And if we aren't clear on, here's what I do for free and here's what I get paid for, it ultimately is a negative experience for everybody involved. And so let me give you a quick example. So let's say you're, a programmer or an IT guy, maybe you're a lawyer, you have a family member that comes to you and says, hey, can you help me out with this? Most people will say, yeah, no problem. But in reality, what ends up happening? The family member gets deprioritized. I have paying clients ahead of you. I kind of push it off. Maybe I do a half-assed job at it. I kind of hurry through it. So it's not my best work. I'm not creating a great experience for that family member. Now the family member looks at me and it's like, oh, I thought this guy was really, really good at what he does, but this was a crappy experience. So, we think that it's this major turnoff by telling someone, I would love to help you with that, but I get paid to do that. Do you want to talk about what that looks like? Instead, we say, well, you're a friend, you're a family member, I'll do it for free. It ultimately ends up backfiring from us because they end up getting a worse quality product and a bad experience. It would have just been much better up front to have that clear-cut conversation of, I do some stuff for free, I do some stuff that I'm paid for. Which one of those do you want to have a conversation about? Be happy to talk with you about that.
And can I add something to that?
Yeah.
And then also, there's also another side that starts to happen is a lot of times those kinds of requests start out with something very quick.
It's
hey, it's just this. Can you come over? Just take a look at this. And then it starts to explode and explode and explode. And next thing you know, you're doing this massive job. You've already set the expectation that you'll look into this for free. You'll do this. So where do you draw the lines? Like, whoa, now we're way beyond what the original thing was. And, again, the conversation goes south.
Yeah. Absolutely. So here, hey, look, get paid. Insist that you get paid. I love this framework that Evan came up with. I got to give him credit for it. I wish I could take credit for it. I can't. But I love this framework of, I do a lot of things for free. I do a lot of things I get paid for. Which one of those things do you want to talk about? Happy to have a conversation about either one of them. It's such a non-threatening way to have that conversation. And then I would say, as someone that is a giver of services, be clear on that. Be clear on that intention. And if you're the receiver of services, especially for family members and friends, insist on paying. It's just the right way. Like, I know they'll want to do it for free, and I know that's awesome, but man, respect their skills. I have family members that are electricians, and I'll have them come over, solve projects. I'm like, no, I just want to, it's fun to hang out. I'm going to do it for free. I'm like, dude, I'm paying you. I don't care what you say. I'm going to find some way to get you the money because I respect your skill. It's something I don't have, and you deserve to be paid for that. I appreciate you want to do something nice for me. That's cool. But this is what you do, and this is what you get paid to do. You should be paid for it.
Yeah. It's like when you have people come help you move. At a minimum, order food and drinks.
Yeah.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
Once the job's done, we're going to order a bunch of food. We'll have drinks. We'll be able to sit and relax.
Yep. It's the right way to do it, man.
Yeah.
It just feels better.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this was fun.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about trying to bring this down to like a 30-minute runtime. I don't think it'll ever happen. Because we hit our groove about 25.
I know. It does take a while to ramp up the engines a bit. So.
Yeah. But I mean, we hit our groove about 25 minutes, and then we start wrapping up about the 45-minute mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is, don't want to go much longer than this, but I was thinking that as we're getting started, it's like, I think 30 minutes is just way too short.
Yeah. Well, we continue to refine. Hopefully some people stick with us for the good gems at the end here.
Yeah. Well, cool, man.
All right.
Thank you much.
See you.
Catch everybody later.